From some of the best fights, to the best fighters, to even more drama, the UFC has it all. But fans always love to hate on some of the biggest fighters out there. Let's talk about some of the biggest of the bunch, starting with Jon Jones.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the future. He is the present and he is the future, and he might be the greatest talent that we've ever seen in the UFC.
Surprisingly, so many people are down to hate one of the biggest fighters out there. One of the biggest reasons fans hate him is because he's probably beaten one of their favorite fighters. But that's just what happens when you're up against an absolute beast like Jones. Not just that, but another huge complaint that people have from the fighter is that he just pretends to be humble, saying that while he was humble at the start of his career, that's not the case anymore, and that with time, he's just getting more arrogant. That was even more exaggerated once he signed autographs for fans, already claiming himself to be the champion before even defeating Shogun.
The winner by TKO, and now a new UFC light heavyweight champion.
But that's just a part of the UFC, and everyone's always pulling off crap like that. But it's also true that no one likes a big name that's full of ego. Despite that, the fighter has been able to put all of those claims to shame and has only grown because of that added exposure. Being controversial really has its perks. I mean, when was the last time you saw him fight and didn't have your eyes glued to the screen just because it was that good? Even having one of the longest winning streaks, if not the longest, in the promotion's history. His skills are enough to justify his arrogance, assuming that he is that. With that said, I have to talk about Chael Sonnen. You'd think that there's absolutely no reason to hate someone like him, but it turns out that a lot of people just can't stand him. He's known for being the biggest troll in the sport and definitely lives up to the title, but a lot of people just don't get that and assume that he's actually being serious. Though much of his humor used to be xenophobic, he's moved on and reformed from such humor. That's honestly for the best, and it would have been a shame to see someone that talented go down that rabbit hole. Though a lot of people still claim that he's one of the biggest villains that the UFC has ever seen. Other than that, the biggest reason that fans hate him so much is that they claim that everything he does is scripted, or at least feels that way, saying that if they wanted to see the same things that go on in WWE, they'd be watching that, basically saying that he goes against the roots of the promotion. But even though such claims have been made against him, he's still striving. In fact, it's one of the reasons why he's gotten so many more people watching all of his moves. Even the people that hate him can't deny that he's one of the best fighters when things start getting heated in the octagon. And I can't forget about Rashad Evans.
He's out, down. Rashad Evans has knocked out Chuck Liddell. Out cold. Unbelievable.
While he isn't the biggest fighter out there, at least in size, don't let that catch you off guard. A lot of fighters have made that mistake and haven't regretted anything more in their entire career. Though he isn't the best at trash talking, despite trying his best at it, obviously that tends to get on a lot of people's nerves. Seeing him try it once or twice would not have been an issue, but seeing him constantly try and embarrass himself is frustrating. Not just that, but he ends up making a fool of himself before the fight even begins. But that's frustrating for fans and other fighters too, with most of them taking him as a joke.
Put away here, and then bang, that one put him away. From here, he's just flailing on instinct. Wow. Took advantage of the...
That is, until they step into the ring with him and realize how big of a mistake they've made. That's far from the only complaint people have about him. Many fans say that he's not good at anything other than wrestling, and his attempts at things like boxing just fall flat. And of course, I can't forget about his arrogance, something that really ticks people off the wrong way. Despite all of that, he's still one of the most successful fighters in the promotion and is only getting better. With an incredible 19 wins under his belt, there's no one like him. In fact, even his haters can't get enough of him and can't deny that he doesn't fail to put on some of the best fights ever. On the other hand, you've got Colby Covington.
Oh, nice back fist. Gets the knockdown for Covington. Not sure.
Colby is arguably one of the most controversial fighters in the history of the promotion. Why is that? Well, one of the biggest reasons for that is his racist trash talking.
Skrin, he has a fight coming up with Jorge. How do you see that fight going?
Oh, you said his name backwards. You said it wrong. It's Ben Ass Cream.
That doesn't bode well with anyone, and it's a miracle that he's been able to strive for so long. That's not to say that he doesn't partake in the occasional normal trash talking. He for sure does. And he takes it up a notch that he ends up making a lot of enemies in the sport.
Hey, show me that energy! Show me that energy! Let's see that energy! You ain't got no energy! That's right! You ain't got no energy!
Bringing about a huge backlash from all kinds of fans of the promotion. Though, as with the case of Sonnen, many people simply forget that he's doing all of that purely to put on a show.
Tito always says I'm using my mouth to get my opportunities. The only person I know that made money using their mouth is his ex-wife.
He's going for a more edgy comedic vibe rather than outright racism, but his support for Trump makes it really suspicious if I'm honest. All that hate isn't going to stop this guy. With an incredible record of 17 wins, with only 3 defeats, he's arguably one of the biggest names in the sport.
Factor Sylvan, we may be looking at a rear naked choke here. Oh, it gets worse here, yep.
And there it is, another finish for Colby Covington.
Even winning the UFC interim welterweight champion title. There's nothing that can get in his way, and he makes sure to make out all the anger from so much hate in the octagon. With that said, here's Anderson Silva.
Trouble! Henderson slides under. Silva looking to finish. He caught him with a big knee. And big an elbow by Anderson Silva.
There's literally no one out there who hasn't heard of Silva. He's just that important to the sport itself. But a lot of people have one reason in particular to hate on the most respectful fighter out there. Turns out that a lot of fans out there are furious that while he may seem really nice and full of humility outside of fights, his personality changes from the moment he sets foot inside the octagon, saying that even though he's dominating all of his opponents, he still goes just as hard and doesn't stop until he ruins their career. But it's the UFC, far from child's play, and you need to assert dominance in the sport to get anywhere, and the fighter has done just that. I mean, how else would he have gotten 34 wins throughout his career? Not just that, but he's also had the longest win and defense streak in the history of the promotion. There's no denying that no one can get enough of him. And finally, I have to talk about Conor McGregor.
Until that. Oh, he's done. He's done.
History has been made. Conor McGregor is the UFC lightweight champion.
What a
There's no way I could end this list without talking about arguably the biggest fighter that the promotion has. Though a lot of people end up hating on the Irishman, some of the biggest claims that people make include calling him an insecure man who uses really rash humor and trash talking to cover it all up. It's one of the reasons why fans just don't respect him like they do other fighters. Not just that, but his tantrums really aren't the most professional display out there. But his record says otherwise, with 22 wins and only 6 losses. Not just that, but he's the first ever fighter that's ever had 2 titles in 2 different weight classes. He's completely in a league of his own, and there's no one that can stop him, especially now that he's out of retirement. That's been a look into the top UFC fighters that fans love to hate.